Good evening, everybody. I'm Jeff Donner, and I'm actually thrilled to welcome all of you to the 14th annual celebration of the life and work of Dr. Martin Luther King. This is our 14th year, as I've said, and I have to make immediate mention of the fact that we have two of our partners from our very first Martin Luther King presentation right here in this beam 14 years ago. I had Yvette Garland and her mother Maria Garland. Don't embarrass me now, how are you guys? You're here, stand up. Stand up. They go all the way down to New York tonight, and they are wonderful people. Right? Mrs. Garland, I actually call her mom. I love it. At any rate, in each of the program years that we've always had a theme. And this year's theme is the fact that Dr. King and his teachings provide a solution for ending divisiveness while preserving principle. Now, I want to tell you just a very quick story. I'm going to really telescope this one down. I want you to think of Selma, Alabama in 1965, March 1965, where 500 to 600 young people of color and their allies gathered on the Eden Pettus Bridge to begin a march to Montgomery, Alabama, to protest the fact that they were not allowed to vote. Around that county, 80% of the people were of color, but only 1% of the electorate was black or of color. There was every excuse in the world, every reason why to deny somebody who was a little different the right to vote. And these individuals on March 7, 1965 wanted to march to Montgomery, Alabama, and petition the governor, George Wallace, and tell him that they had a right to vote. But when they came up over the bridge, the high point in the middle looking down, they could see hundreds of police officers and state police patrolmen and dogs and guns and horses, and everybody there to meet them and prevent them from continuing on their march. And when they got down, they bravely marched forward. When they got down, there was a massacre of all of these law enforcement individuals beating and resisting and humiliating and hurting these individuals, American citizens, who only wanted the right to petition their government, and that was called Bloody Sunday. On March 9, 1965, Dr. King arrived with 2,500 supporters, and he wanted to march to Montgomery, Alabama. When he came over the bridge, the arc of the Eden Pettus Bridge, he saw the same police officers, and he decided wisely not to subject his people to the same humiliation and risk of danger and death, and he turned it around. That was called Turnaround Tuesday. He came under a lot of criticism for that. But in the meantime, Bloody Sunday had been televised throughout the world. And Americans throughout our country, people throughout the world recognized that this was not the America that we wanted, not the America that we could believe in. And so began a process where on March 15th, Lyndon Johnson gave the greatest speech of his presidency to usher in the 1965 Voter Rights Act, stating that this is an American problem, and people, all people, were going to get the right to vote. On March 21st to the 25th, there was a march in Montgomery, Alabama. 25,000 people made that march under federal protection, injunctions from the federal district court, hundreds of agents making sure that these people made it safely. Now, the point I want to pose, the reason I went into the story was, with 25,000 people there, do we believe that every one of those people agreed with each other about everything? The odds of that would be infinitesimally small. But the important point is, they agreed with each other about one thing, and that was that people had the right to vote, and they had the right to march to Montgomery, Alabama, and tell their governor that they had the right to vote, and that's what they did. That's what Martin Luther King did. He began his career with inclusion, with love, not hate, and with recognizing that you don't convince people by insulting them or alienating them, but by communicating with them and educating them in order to form broad alliances for worthy causes and make a difference at the ballot box, in legislation, and court rulings. And that's exactly the model that was used to achieve the Voting Rights Act of 1965. In comparison, we're presently faced with a crisis in public discourse in our country today, where productive interaction and a willingness to consider alternate viewpoints and reasoned compromise have given way to disparagement and even hate along political lines. We are confronted with entrenched divisiveness throughout each day. And those that dare to disagree with the truths that we hold dear become the hated enemy, and the immediate victims are civility, intellect, and the exchange of ideas, all vital elements to a functioning democracy. But the threat is even more dangerous because the unwitting victim is the bonds that hold our nation together itself. America is an idea, hopefully shared by the 350 million people who live with us on this planet. We are bound together by shared values that make us Americans and render our nation unique. I'm not talking about myths like the land of the free and the home of the brave, where some people might disagree with that based on their real-life experiences. I'm talking about the United States Constitution that gives us life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, First Amendment rights of speech, religion, assembly, Fourth Amendment rights against unreasonable search and seizure, Fifth Amendment rights against self-incrimination, Sixth Amendment rights to have a jury trial by our peers, and a penumbra of privacy that protects what we do on a given day. There are values that elevate the individual and make each individual important and give each one of us the right to be heard and considered before the majority rules. And so any divisiveness is not about sacrificing principle. It is about the way that we talk to each other, learn from each other, interact with each other, and hopefully find common ground where possible, but at least keeping the dialogue open. That is what this program is about tonight, keeping the dialogue open. And I will pose to you one other thought. We all have a choice. We can have a country where we have each other's backs, or where we have each other's throats. To me, the choice is obvious, and hopefully this program tonight will convince you why it's obvious. Martin Luther King did not regard politics as an art of winning every battle at whatever cost. What he regarded politics as was a way of advancing humanity to come closer to those great values in our Constitution that we need to implement by having a majority of people in a democracy believe that they're important. And until that happens, we don't have people necessarily living up to those values. But what we do have is a system that will enhance our opportunities to achieve those values and implement them in a more perfect way. And that is the task that we are facing tonight. I just want to give everybody an overview of a couple of things, and then we'll move forward with the program. First of all, we have something called the Partnership for Progress and Growth, which we put together over the last year, and involves Second Baptist Church, Living Word Christian Fellowship, the Long Branch Church of the Covenant, and the Martin Luther King Memorial Guild. And they have been our partners in this program tonight. I have a co-chair, Jerry, where are you? I told you I wanted you to stand up. There he is. Jerry is my indispensable partner at all times. And we have on Sunday the event at Second Baptist Church, which starts with a march from Long Branch Memorial Park to the Second Baptist Church. I'll be there. I especially invite people from Torat and all of the people who are not members of Second Baptist Church to be there. And on Monday, January 21st, I've been honored and humbled to be chosen to give the speech this year at the annual celebration of Dr. King in Long Branch on his birthday, starting at 9 o'clock in Long Branch Memorial Park. And I have to thank the Guild for giving me this great opportunity. And tonight, however, I just want to give you an overview of what we're doing and where we're going. We have, of course, our choirs who will entertain us and give us a musical interlude and opportunities to clap and feel happy. But we also have presentations by Rabbi Schonbrun about how principled people can end divisiveness. We have remarks by Reverend Aaron Gibson about how Martin Luther King used religious symbolism to move his ideas. I've been to the mountaintop. We have a presentation by Pastor Miller of the Living Word Christian Fellowship about how our values are in place, and if they're not implemented, it's we that fall short. All of these individuals are very self-minded and able to adopt these topics. There may be a little division and diversion from what my suggestions are, but they are here to present these thoughts, and I think that we'll all enjoy them. And of course, Dr. Warner, my dear friend, is back here, and he's going to reenact the I Have a Dream speech, which I want you to listen to and recognize how many illusions there are in that speech about finding common ground, about being with each other, about encouraging diversity, and doing the things that Dr. Martin Luther King taught. And with that, I will begin the program by asking Rabbi Aaron Schonbrun, the spiritual leader of Torat, to present to us how principled people can end divisiveness.
Thank you, Jeff. Good evening, everybody, and I want to welcome everyone back to our annual celebration of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., life and legacy. It feels good, right? Every year, for those who come every year, you walk in, we see all of our old friends. It's nice to be together. I want to thank Jeff Donner for all of his work, in particular in my absence. I was on a recent sabbatical, but I came back and Jeff had more than an outline ready for me. I want to thank our office staff, Cardulo, Joanne Bass, Lisa Arnold, our maintenance staff, Rich Salerno, Jacob Finneran, all who put hard work into this evening. I want to thank all of our friends and colleagues, Reverend Gibson, Pastor Miller, Dr. Warner, our distinguished choirs who are with us this evening, the newly formed Partnership for Progress and Growth, the Beth El and Shalom Foundation for sponsoring this evening's event, and of course, I know I speak for everyone here by extending a warm welcome to our keynote speakers, State Senators Vin Gopal and Declan O'Scanlan, as well as our District Assemblyman Eric Odelang, who I was privileged to see just this morning at my daughter's school. So twice in one day is pretty good. I want to give everyone a round of applause, please. Recognize, because I always miss a few people, any clergy, community leaders who are with us. If I did not name you because I didn't know you were here, please forgive me. We are in a house of worship. We should forgive each other. Please stand up so we can recognize you. My friends, not big for in a moment. Now, I can't count the number of times that I've discussed the importance of civility in society, both at this specific event from this very pulpit. All I had to do as I was preparing my remarks this evening is go to some old files and start cutting and pasting various texts and teachings. Texts from Genesis, reminding us when God created the world, God made everybody in God's image, which is a fancy way of saying we all have divine worth, and we should treat each other as such, simply by virtue of our humanity and our shared status as God's sacred children. Or they're the text from Leviticus, saying we shouldn't hate our brothers and sisters in our hearts. We should love our neighbors as ourselves. Or the text from Deuteronomy, reminding us we shouldn't harbor ill will towards those who seem to be other, or are somehow labeled as our enemies. In the Bible it was, you shouldn't abhor the Edomite or the Egyptian. You two are strangers in the land. Even those Edomites and Egyptians who enslaved the children of Israel were still regarded as human beings made in God's image first, and those with whom we have a serious disagreement, second. I've talked about all of this. I've spoken about the Jewish idea of sinat chinam, senseless hatred, that according to our tradition was directly responsible for the destruction of the Second Temple. I've spoken about the poison of hatred speech, a tradition that constantly strives for open communication, respect, even in the midst of disagreement. We've talked about this. And as I understand from both Dr. King's writings and my own Jewish values, and our shared values as people of faith, we are called on to be civil. We are asked to be respectful. We are taught to listen to one another and be empathic and kind towards one another. That's basic to all of our teachings, even if it seems harder and harder to discover today. It seems that even Dr. King, who led a movement that was all about disruption for the sake of justice and equality, understood the importance of being civil. I came across something new this year that I didn't know. Always good to learn things. I was reading about the Montgomery bus boycott, 1955 and 1956, and Dr. King's writings strive towards freedom. And he talks about that there was a committee appointed with an equal amount of white and equal amount of African American participants to find a solution to the injustice of the busing situation. And there was a man named Reverend Henry Parker, who was appointed chairperson of the group, and as we would suspect, the white participants clearly had racist viewpoints that were simply not tolerable, and Dr. King, as we would understand, became very angry and responded angrily and resentfully, and that's not surprising. We all empathize with that kind of anger. But what is surprising are the following words that he wrote. Yet I knew, he said, that this was no way to solve a problem. You must not harbor anger, I admonished myself. You must be willing to suffer the anger of the opponent and not return anger. You must not become bitter, no matter how emotional your opponents are. You must be calm. And then he went on, according to the book, to call Parker and apologize to the Reverend, even though he knew that Parker was clearly against the position of racial integration on the buses. Now, when we hear this, we might think, wait a minute, did Dr. King go too far in the direction of civility? How could he remain calm and apologize to the people who were clearly racist? How could a leader who created an entire movement calling for civil disobedience, social disruption to change an inherently racially problematic system, racist system, simultaneously hold such high regard for the sacredness of humanity that he was able to think about fighting segregation in that way? And the answer, I believe, lies in the fact that Dr. King understood that holding on to civility and respect, even in the midst of such racist vitriol, even in the face of bodily harm, didn't negate his demand for the pursuit of justice or minimize his call for a society that is equal and just for all of its citizens. Jeff entitled my talk, Principled People Can End Divisiveness. We didn't talk about it when he gave me the title. I want to focus on the principled part. The civility we need to end divisiveness. Tonight I want to talk a little bit about the principled part. Because it seemed to me that as a man of faith, Reverend King understood two biblical lessons very clearly. He knew the answer to one of God's earliest questions to humanity in the Bible was, yes, you are your brother's keeper. And he lived by that mandate. And he knew of the biblical teaching that we say in Hebrew, tzedek, tzedek, tirdof, justice, justice shall you pursue. All we have to do is look at Dr. King's famous letter from a Birmingham jail. Understand that, yes, he was able to be civil, but he was also not afraid to raise his voice and demand justice. After being arrested for protesting in Birmingham, openly defying a court order prohibiting such action, receiving a letter from 8 white Alabama clergymen criticizing him for his efforts, labeling him as an extremist and telling him just to be patient, he wrote the following in 1963, quote, "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. We are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly, affects all indirectly. Anyone who lives inside the United States can never be considered an outsider anywhere in this country." You may well ask, he said, why direct action, sit-ins, marches, so on? You're quite right in call for negotiation. Indeed, that's the purpose of direct action. Non-violent direct action seeks to create such a crisis and foster such creative tension that we're forced to confront the issue. I must confess, I am not afraid, he said, of tension. I have earnestly worked and preached against violent tension, but there is a type of constructive, non-violent tension which is necessary for growth. In other words, what Dr. King was clarifying to the preachers and his audience and the world and to us is that civility and patience are important, but we must always remember our biblical mandate to fight for justice. We should seek dialogue, as we're doing here tonight, and we should, of course, be civil. We must be. And at the same time, we must never forget what it is that we as citizens and peoples of faith should be collectively pursuing: a just and equal society for all, regardless of race or gender, religion or birthplace or sexual orientation. Now, what does this just society look like? I went back to Dr. King's letter. He said, "You express a great deal of anxiety over our willingness to break laws. That's legitimate. But there are two types of laws, just and unjust. One is not only a legal but a moral responsibility to obey just laws. Conversely, a moral responsibility to disobey unjust laws. I would agree with St. Augustine that an unjust law is no law at all. And what's the difference between the two? A just law is a man-made code that squares with the moral law or the law of God. And an unjust law is a code that is out of harmony with moral law. To put it in the terms of St. Thomas Aquinas, I love, by the way, that the rabbi is quoting the Reverend who's quoting St. Thomas Aquinas. An unjust law is a human law that is not rooted in eternal and natural law. Any law that uplifts human personality is just. And any law that degrades human personality is unjust. And when we despair that we are living in a time where nobody's speaking to one another, and when we despair that we are living in a time where human personalities are being degraded every minute of every hour, and when we worry what kind of political extremism has seemingly taken hold in our society, we should challenge ourselves in this room to civility and respectfully meet extremism with what I might call a positive type of extremism. One more time to quote Dr. King, because he said in the letter, the question is not whether we will be extremists, but what kind of extremists we will be. Will we be extremists for hate or for love? Will we be extremists for the preservation of injustice or for the extension of justice? Perhaps the South, the nation, and the world are in dire need of creative extremists. And note the civil tone that he ended the letter. Yours for the cause of peace and brotherhood. Martin Luther King Jr. So tonight, with these words and lessons of Dr. King in mind, with our shared lives of faith in mind, with our shared belief that the democracy of this country is a dream that we dare not give up on, let us go forward together to create a just society based on freedom, equality, and dignity for all. Let us never forget that ours is a country founded on the premise that all of humanity is created equal, endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable rights. And let us join together tonight in the celebration of the life and legacy of Dr. King, ever cognizant that we must lead with respect and love, all the while marching towards the promised land, mindful of our biblical mandate, our shared mandate, to pursue the hope of civility and justice embodied in the national anthem that I heard this morning with Assembly Rolling with my daughter, leading it on the speaker for those kids. One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all.
Thank you, Rabbi. It is now my pleasure and honor to walk to the church choir of the Second Baptist Church of Long Branch, who will perform a medley of a number of songs that will get us to stand up and clap and do some things we don't often do in this particular sanctuary. But always like to see power can be done. Please. sometimes pay close attention to what I say, probably noted that I omitted any mention at the beginning of the program in my remarks about our keynote event. And that is because I wanted to take a few moments to introduce you with a little better emphasis. First of all, before going forward with that introduction, I want to acknowledge Eric Torat, who is our Assemblyman from the 11th District. I'm going to go slightly out of order in the program, and at this point in time, we want to have the keynote event, which is our panel discussion. And I'd like to introduce State Senator Vin Gopal, who's a Democrat. He's in the 11th Legislative District, which forms a portion of Monmouth County. Senator Gopal assumed office in January of 2018. He is a former chairperson of the Monmouth County Democratic Committee. At age 33, Senator Gopal is the youngest member of the New Jersey Senate. He's been appointed Vice Chairman of the Senate Transportation Committee, and he serves as a member of the Economic Growth Committee and Health, Human Service, and Senior Citizens Committee, and he was recently appointed Chairman of the Senate Military and Veteran Affairs Committee. He lives in Long Branch. And we also have Senator Declan O'Scallon, who is from the 13th Legislative District, which also forms a part of Monmouth County. And he also assumed office in January of 2018. He previously served in the New Jersey General Assembly from 2012 to 2018. In the Assembly, he served on the Assembly Budget Committee. He was also Assistant Republican Whip and Republican Policy Co-Chair from 2010 to 2011, and Republican Budget Officer. And he currently serves on the Senate Budget and Appropriations Committee, the Committee on Community and Urban Affairs, and perhaps even more importantly, on the Committee on Law and Public Safety, and he lives in Little Silver. I want to tell you that both of these senators immediately said yes to our invitation, have been unbelievably cooperative and forthcoming, and I need to tell you that I may not agree with anything or everything that they say, but I admire both of them. I admire both of them for being here and for serving this state. They are part of the upcoming leadership of the state, and I will tell you that the state, because of their leadership, is in good hands. I now would like to have you open up the House and welcome our two senators. Now, all of you hopefully took a pledge to end divisiveness. At the end of this panel discussion, we're going to talk a little bit about it. Let's talk about why we should be concerned about pledging to end divisiveness. And we have a number of topics this evening that we have all senators about, and we're going to try and go through some of the issues that I think affect the level of divisiveness, the level of non-civility and cooperation that we see sometimes too often today. Can you all hear me? Okay. Thank you. I'm a full service senator. Thanks. Can you all hear me now? Okay. That is public service. Okay. I have a question to address to both senators. Deal with seriality. Do you recognize the existence of shared pre-political values that bind us together as citizens? And should these values enable us to find common ground on at least some public issues? Senator Hall?
Sure. First of all, it's great to be here. Yesterday would have been the 90th birthday of Dr. Martin Luther King, and events like this and what Jeffrey's doing and is incredible. And it's great to be here with my good friend Senator Stanley. When we were together yesterday, we did a TV interview, and he's someone I've known for quite a while. I might make him a Democrat before it's all over. He says he might make me a Republican. He's a terrific individual. We worked very closely together on a number of things. I think one of the most important things is you have to get to know someone for who they are, and not necessarily their political beliefs. And that is what really defines us, what someone's family is, what their interests are. And that's one of the things I did when I got elected to the Senate. I went to go meet with a lot of my colleagues I didn't know from the other party. I had one colleague in particular who out there represents Sussex County. I don't share much along with him as it comes to political ideology, but he's one of my favorite people because I got to know him personally. I got to know about his family. I got to know about his professional interests. And I think that's how you're able to build. So the politics of personal destruction, which is participated by both elements, the far left and the far right, I think it really hurt our country. And I think when we have people on both sides that feel that the word compromise is an ugly word, it's going to set us back. So I do think there are bonds that connect us, and it's our humanity which connects us at the end.
Senator? I absolutely do think that that's the case. This is a room filled with people of faith, I think, probably many faiths, but predominantly a batch of Jews and a batch of Christians. We're all here together, and we all share a core set of values. Bringing that to the table is a help, but whether people are people of faith or not, just basic human decency and kindness, which you hope people have. Everybody has some kernel of in their hearts, although we all run into someone we felt maybe lack that, but it's unusual. The greatest lesson I've ever learned, certainly in politics, is that when I started out an angry young man, I was going to fix the world. I had all the answers. I was 17. I didn't need to learn anything from anyone. And I learned right around the time I was 20 that I didn't know everything, and that it was much more important to seek the truth than to previously held beliefs. That is an amazingly unshackling revelation. I've carried that with me. I share that when I go and speak to kids in schools, so as to hopefully plant the seed that it's important to learn about other people, to understand where they're coming from, and to question your own beliefs. In almost every argument I have, almost every debate I have over issues, the first thing I say to myself is, how might I be wrong? And if I am, I really have no trouble letting go of the philosophy that I came into the argument with. That's how I became a Republican, by the way. You will find a lot of agreement here, a lot of joking. Again and I are probably unusual, and maybe too unusual, within the legislature. We come from the same county, with the two main legislators here, senators here. But we really get along. We've known each other for a long time. We see each other grow. We see each other make mistakes. And we've called each other out on those mistakes, sometimes pretty harshly. And we form a really good relationship. And hopefully we can set an example as we move forward. But it's an honor to be here. I will say, Jeff, thank you for having us. It's an amazing event. I'm happy to be here. It's great to see so many people here. It's so hard to get people involved and interested, particularly in the foundational things that we're talking about, but they are the most important things that we need to be talking about. So thank you for having me in.
You're more than welcome. I want to come back with a quick follow-up here. If the bonds between citizens, based upon shared American values, can be dangerously weakened by lack of civility or lack of respect, my question is, can we create a culture of civility in political campaigns? And what would be the components of such a culture?
Well, the jury's out. And we won't ever have a final answer on that. Harmony is a vacuum, is another thing I say to people. When everybody's getting along, everybody's happy, and the weather's good, don't count on lasting forever. The job isn't done, it's a matter of maintenance. Politics has forever, in the history of man, brought out the worst aspects of man. Our founding fathers, if you read some of the things they wrote about each other, you would think the worst things people are saying about each other now are chicken feed compared to some of the things they accused each other of. So I don't want to make a promise I can't keep. What the promise that I can keep, though, is that I will work, and I know Vin will do this as well, I'll echo this, to make sure that I don't go there. And I've done that from, look, I've always been there. I've done and made some mistakes myself in politics. people in this room who I run against. Carl Williams is here from Asbury Park, one of my favorite people today. He's a councilman in Asbury Park. I ran campaigns against him. Sometimes make your hair grow. But he's a great guy, and I learned from that. I'm a better politician, better man. Some of those mistakes that were made in some of those campaigns, I learned from every campaign going forward. There's Dave Brown here from Long Branch, another one of my favorite people. Dave Brown Sr. Dave Brown Jr. is also here. Another, both father and son are my favorite people. The father's a Republican, so he's a little more my favorite, but I like him for it. Look, you grow, you learn, and the pledge you're getting us to sign tonight, I have learned to live by for a long time. One of my first campaigns for the legislature, millions of dollars were spent against me, calling me a crook, stealing from the public, and really defaming my character, none of which was at all true. My campaign team brought something to me about my opponent, which was more true than what he was saying about me, but it wasn't really true. We could have hung our hats on fighting him and really maybe won an election. My campaign team said, well, you're a high bar. I'm like, well, that's my point. I think I have to make a case that I'm different than my opponent, and if I fall to his level, then I'm not. I may as well not win the election. He said, if you lose by less than 1,000 votes, you lost the election right here by deciding not to fight that fight. I lost by 65 votes. I beat him the next time. He's a friend now, but I don't regret that. We do need to live that and sacrifice our own political futures. We should probably all learn to do that and make politics a better place.
I have the same question. If you want to applaud it, or the record deserves applause, go ahead. I have the same question on a different variant for Senator Powell, and I want to ask it this way. Senator, can a meaningful campaign be based predominantly on ideas and positions? And does a candidate have the duty to fairly listen to and fairly analyze the opponent's position?
Yes, is a short answer. Look, we live in an age where social media and quick news bites usually get someone's attention. We see sometimes folks that don't even read the actual story or what the issue is, which becomes challenging. And like Senator Aaron Schonbrun, I've certainly made a fair share of mistakes, especially when I was party chair. I've become friends with some of those candidates when you decide, what to do in a close campaign. I can tell you, all you can do is try to grow and learn from that. I know at the end of my tenure in the Senate, whether it's 2 more years or 6 more years, whatever, I want to look back with no regrets. And I know that's what Declan wants to do too. And to treat folks the way you want to be treated. Some of you know I went through a very vigorous Senate campaign with a good friend of Declan, Senator Jen Beck, who was the state senator for a long time. And they were very close, and we were on opposite sides. When that campaign ended and I was successful, I reached out to Senator Beck the next day and I said, listen, we had a very heated campaign. A lot of this was not personal. I know you want to still serve the state of New Jersey. What can I do to help? And she did tell me ways in which we're trying to do to make sure that she still stays part of the process. So it's taking that element that it's not personal. The other thing that's important is you have elected officials in both parties, and it's a problem where they hang on to their elected office like it's their life. And that's a problem. If I am not in the Senate tomorrow, which I hope I am, if I'm not, I'm still going to lead a productive, meaningful life in some other way. So when you have folks in both parties that are willing to hold on to their office at all costs, it makes our democracy and our public discourse and our stability way more unhealthy. And I think that's what we need to do is, over time, look at those officials. Some of them, with all respect to some of my Democratic colleagues in the state Senate, I did bring the average age down a good deal. But some of them have been there, and they're very good people. They've been there for 40 years, and they're very rigid. And I don't know how healthy that is. So I think most importantly, you can't have an issue based on campaigns, but it starts with having mutual respect for your opponent and understanding that this is not personal. You do not walk on water, and you're not here to say something. There's a lot of good ideas on both sides. And when I remember actually very distinctly when I called Senator Beck, and this was in February or January 2 years ago, I said, listen, I'm running for the state Senate seat. It's actually, I don't dislike you. I don't even think anything bad. I think you've done an okay job. I just think I can be an effective senator. It's nothing personal against you. Of course, we go through 8 months of a very heated race where there's emotions on both sides, but I think that's where it starts. It starts in trying to be respectful, trying to understand, but that's got to come from both sides. And I have to tell you, after the election, she was incredibly gracious when it came to transition of constituent work and all that. So we had two sides there that were willing to look at what was actually in the best interest of the people of Monmouth County. You don't always get that situation, but I think that's where it starts, is where it starts with mutual respect from both sides.
I have a final question for each of you. Can our democracy function properly in an atmosphere where political differences intensify to the point that dialogue and cooperation cannot occur? Senator Smith.
As Senator Powell just said, it can't. Look, we have, maybe no one noticed, but things are a little caustic in Washington, D.C. these days. It almost to the point of complete paralysis. And it's just not functional. I don't care if you're Republican or Democrat, you can't deny the faults of our president. You can't deny the faults of some of the people running Congress and the opposition. It's gone too far on both sides, and it isn't constructive. It's a problem. I will tell you that here in New Jersey, we don't get recognized for doing many things really well. We're pretty good at bipartisanship. We're pretty good at working together, bringing both sides together on a number of issues. You say what one wants about Governor Christie in his style. He learned how to work with Democrats in the legislature, unlike our president has yet to do at the federal level. But if you get to the point of rhetorical paralysis, well, first of all, you need to recognize that you're not following your oath of office, by the way. I think you've advocated what I think is an obligation to behave reasonably and rationally. But you can't. And we learn that here. I guess we test those waters sometimes, even here in New Jersey. But for the most part, it's a batch of decent people really trying to do the right thing. We may disagree with how to get there. We may have a few policy differences. But especially now with the dire fiscal situation that we are facing, I am thrilled and amazed, and I don't say this about New Jersey politics almost ever, with the interest in working together to make the right things happen. That makes this one of the most exciting times in my political career. So we're not falling prey to that here, but you can't function if it's just a war, you're getting nowhere.
Senator Gopal, can a democracy function properly in an atmosphere where political differences intensify to the point that dialogue and cooperation become impossible?
No. I would say someone asked me, this was actually last week at a school, they're like, what are your thoughts on federal government? So let's take policy aside. Everyone has different ways to get to policy. My biggest concern is discourse. And it wouldn't matter if the president was a Democrat or Republican, Independent, it wouldn't matter. But you can't go through name calling, you can't go on social media and tweet out any thought you have. I think these things hurt the overall discourse. You can have the best idea in the world, but if you demonize your opposition, it's not going to work. So I think it's extremely important that we have elected officials and leaders and community leaders that teach our kids and grandkids the values that we expect them to have. Values of respect, no matter what culture or religion or sex you are. Values of even if you have an issue that you deeply disagree with, that you treat that person with respect, and you treat that person with courtesy. Those are things that we're desperately missing at the federal level. To Senator Scanlon's point, we have that at the state level. We are able to. You have outliers in both of our parties that are there for the sake of stirring the pot, which is okay, but they'll just be up there to make noise. But for the majority who want to advance and make life better for the people of New Jersey, it's about how do we get there. And I think that is probably for me, one of the scariest things I see right now at the federal government is a total lack of discourse. We have an obligation. a little bit terrified for kids going through school right now and hoping that they realize that this is not how leaders should act.
Back around, there was recognition of this very question. Our rabbi tonight, I mentioned the anecdote about Dr. King calling the racist reverend and apologizing for his anger, for his bringing the discourse to paralysis. That is exactly an example of what you're talking about, and his writings and his sayings about that are particularly prescient to that.
Thank you. I want to turn now, and hopefully each of you have picked up one of these. If not, we're at the back of the room at the end of the program. I want to hand one to Senator Scanlon and one to Senator Paul. You can see these before, but I just want to point it out to you. This is a pledge to do our part as individuals to end divisiveness, because it's not just the office holders who have a sacred duty to make decisions and represent us, but it's up to us as well to have a sacred duty on how to treat one another with civility and respect. This says, I am committed to ending excessive divisiveness and lack of respect, and promoting open-mindedness and civility in discussions concerning public issues. Political contest should be hard-fought, but the battleground must be ideas, not opposition research and personal invective. As a voter, I can enable our elected leaders to realize these truths by not only presenting these positions to them, but voting for the candidates that honor it. I further resolve that once the ballots are counted following each election, I will continue working to foster common ground with my fellow citizens where achievable in order to implement American values. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to ask both Senator Gopal and Senator O'Scallon to sign this pledge on their personal conduct. I'm going to ask each of you to sign it and fill it out, because what I hope we're going to do is start to build a movement that can overcome some of the negative aspects of lack of civility and lack of respect in the country today. We've certainly heard reasons why this should come to an end. And I applaud both senators for showing their duty to serve above their career as an office holder. And I have to tell you, I admire that, and that's exactly what we're talking about, and exactly what we need among our leaders.
Someone get a picture of this. You can take this and sign it on my back. Good symbolism here. It's a nice suit. As long as you have a chair. Fill the whole thing out. Put your signature on it. No disrespect to the rest of this program. Tonight is my date night with my wife, so that's why I'm saying. So I give that applause for Jeff Donner for having us here today.
You get a big call back. Thank you both for this.
I'd like to turn now to an individual who almost needs no introduction here. He's been a keynote speaker, he's been a partner of ours throughout the years, and he is the spiritual leader of Second Baptist Church in Long Branch. And I'd like to introduce Reverend Aaron Gibson Sr. Regarding I've been to the mountaintop, Dr. King embraced American religious foundations.
Certainly to Jeff Donner and to the rabbi who he and I share first names together, and to clergy that's here, both here on the podium as well as in the congregation. Certainly we recognize each of you, and I want to thank God for the choir that came from Second Baptist Church and several beautiful productions. I want to thank God for them again. I got to go home with them. I thank them for coming in numbers, and we're looking forward to the choir of Living Word. We thank God for them in advance. Amen. Jeff has given me, and you know, when Jeff asks you to do something, you can never say no. At least I have not found it possible to say no to him at any level. And so he's given me two different thoughts to speak about tonight. And the first one really deals with how Dr. King embraced America's religious foundations. I think Dr. King, in all of his great wisdom, found it necessary to bring spiritual people together. If there's going to be a start in terms of changing the society that we live in or changing our world, it's really about bringing religious people together in dialogue and sharing so that we can start off at the highest level. I believe that clergy and whether we are Protestant, Catholic, Jew, we all bring something to the table in terms of inculcating values. Now, there was a time when the church, the synagogue, and more importantly, our homes inculcated values to our children. Our children learned what it meant to treat others right because it was taught at home. And I'm afraid that what has happened in our society is that the home is not the place anymore where values are being shared and talked about. The kitchen table, the dinner table is not visible anymore. It's not present anymore, where families would gather and talk together about what's going on in the world so that children could hear from their parents and understand some of the greater issues facing the family and facing society. And that just doesn't happen. And that's why I really like Deuteronomy 6:3, where it talks about we need to talk to our children when we walk along the way, talk to our children when we're sitting in the house, talk to our children when we are laying in bed at night. There's times when the family needs to get together, talk together, so that values can be espoused and be shared with one another. Dr. King brought religious organizations together, and I know it doesn't surprise you to hear that not everybody embraced Dr. King along religious lines. Even along Baptist lines, there were Baptist preachers that felt that it was not right for a minister in the 1950s and 1960s, a pastor, a clergy person, to go to jail for any reason at all. They found that to be just absolutely bad, that a pastor, no matter what the cause, no matter what the issue, would go to jail. Dr. King brought to the church the need to look at social issues, the need to look at social justice. And I'm afraid that even today, some of our churches, and I don't know about synagogues, but I know about many of our churches, we're not talking about social justice as much as we should. We're not talking about the things that really will bring people together and cause them not to hate on each other, but to love each other. And I do believe that starts in the home, it continues in the church, and then it needs to continue in our schools. Unfortunately, in many of our schools, they become battlegrounds where a lot of bad things are happening, and our children really are confused about which direction they need to go in. There's no voice in many homes. There's no voice in terms of values in many churches and schools. And so where do they turn? Where do they look for guidance and direction? in terms of treating one another correctly? Well, they should be looking at us. They should be able to see that there's mentors throughout the community, mentors throughout the churches and synagogues that they can look to, and maybe it's not widespread, but there are folks that they can look to and say there is a better way of getting together. Things do not need to end in gun violence, like we see all across America. Almost every day we see scenes that are played out all the time where things end in violence. And Dr. King was one, as you know, that espoused nonviolence. Not only nonviolence when it comes to putting your hands on someone, but nonviolence when it comes to our words and the things that we say to one another. I tell you, from time to time, I believe that God pulls back the curtain of time and allows all of us to take a peek into the future. These glimpses provide a unique vantage point for us to see the ultimate end of our life's work, much of which will be accomplished long after our lifetimes. It's a mountaintop experience for a parent to see a child competing or completing his professional or career training, launching a career, starting a family, and standing unassisted. A lot of parents are waiting for their children to stand unassisted, where they don't need to come home and get a handout or additional money. I knew I'd get some amens there. It's even more of a mountaintop experience for a grandparent to see the potential greatness in their grandchildren and their great-grandchildren realized. The higher mountain view, the further we see into the future. We also see the hills and the valleys that lay between the promised land and the present. Atop the mountain, we see the challenging mountains of frustration and the valleys of despair that lie ahead of those that follow. However, the mountaintop view also gives us a chance to know that there are those who we love will get there one day, even if we are delayed in getting there ourselves. That's the nature and the substance of Dr. King and his last sermon to the world, which was given on April the 3rd of 1968, 5 days before my 18th birthday. We all sat at the television set, and many of you can relate to the fact that we didn't have TVs like we have now. We had rabbit ears, and we had to take hangers and put it on the TV so we could tune in to a certain channel. But all of African Americans, or I would say the majority of African Americans, and the world tuned in on that day, where nearly 2,000 people gathered in a church in Memphis, Tennessee. These 2,000 were like millions of others in America who were living through a storm of racial discrimination. They came to hear Dr. King speak, despite a severe weather storm forecasted in the area. They were living a storm. They were living through a storm, but they came in a storm to learn whether the sun would shine for them after the storm. And I believe some of us are in that same place. We're going through storms, and we're walking through the storm believing that the sun is going to shine even in human relationships, even after the storm has passed. Dr. King concluded in his address that night, he said, well, I don't know what will happen now. We've got some difficult days ahead, but it doesn't matter with me now, because I have been to the mountaintop. And I don't mind, like anybody, I would like to live a long life. Longevity has its place, but I'm not concerned about that now. I just want to do God's will. He's allowed me to go up to the mountain, and I've looked over and I've seen States government who pinned the killing on James Earl Ray. The circumstances of his death are still debated even to this day, but his mountaintop view of the future was unquestioned and shared with every generation that has followed. His words echo across decades. I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land. As people of faith, we can appreciate what it means to go to the mountaintop. We can also understand the power of knowing that despite the frustrations of the moment, we as a people also will get to the promised land. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Reverend Gibson. Beautiful and profound. Before we continue, I have to make a couple of introductions. First of all, I want to introduce and have him stand David G. Brown II, the Monmouth County Democratic Chair, who's been so supportive and helpful. Because I gave time to the Democrat, I got to give time to the Republican. His father, where's David G. Brown, number 1? One other, Jacob Jones is here from the Martin Luther King Guild. Jacob, where are you? He's out in the hall there. Jacob Jones. Moving right along. I want to introduce the Living Word Christian Fellowship Choir. What an awesome God you are, and Hallelujah by Clint Brown.
Good evening, everyone. And when we come to these functions, it's kind of difficult to figure out what to sing. As we try to sing songs that are mired in denominational distinctives. So we're going to switch things around a little bit. We went way back into the archives, and we're going to pull something out of the archives, but we're going to illustrate two songs today that I hope will help us. Feel free to clap. Amen. In our church, this is what we do. Just before the choir sings, would you do me a favor and just help the person next to you and welcome them to the house of the Lord? Would you do that? Amen.
Thank you.
wonderful, inspiring, moving, and entertaining. Thank you all so much. August 28th, 1963. And if you're at the the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C., what you saw stretching in front of the memorial, as far as the eye could see, were hundreds of thousands of people who came to hear one man. His name was Dr. Martin Luther King. This was a time when people of color in our country had no public accommodations. They had no real right to vote because that right was not recognized. And through all of the opposition and all of the negativity and all of the hate, Dr. King came to give what is without any doubt one of the greatest speeches in history, embracing love, not hate, and looking at a vision, an American vision, that encompassed all. I bring to you Donald D. Warner, who was at that speech, and is now going to present that to us tonight.
Thank you so much, Attorney Donner. I'm so proud of what happens here every year. I don't know of any place else in the country where this happens. So proud of Rabbi Schonbrun and Jeffrey Donner. In fact, if Jeffrey wasn't so ugly, I'd give him a kiss. I'm not in a bit. Dr. King reminds us that America has written a bad check. White against blacks, Jews versus Gentiles, Catholics versus Muslims, and yet a cure awaits us. And that check is signed L-O-V-E, love. I've had several instances in my own background, my own life, where I had to learn to love. As a young boy, I recall my brother Bobby walking through all-white Abington Township. We had a situation whereby we took the 55 bus, and if we got off at Rockville Avenue, all we had to do was walk over the hill, jump across the tracks, and you're in my backyard. If we went further, it would take us 2 miles to get home. My brother Bobby got off the bus, Rockville Avenue, walking up the hill. Policeman asked him to stop. He began to run. He was shot in the back 6 times. I recall vividly as a young Marine, age 17. A young man who lied to get into the Marine Corps, age 16, stepped out of the trench line and was hit with shrapnel. We had vests on, but the shrapnel went up under his armpits. And I ran out of the trench line. Young white man I held in my arms as he died. Afterwards, after discharge, I found myself hitchhiking across the country from California to Portsmouth, Virginia. There was about 8 of us waiting at the bus stop, all Marines. I hopped on the bus, happy to ride to the base, took a seat behind the bus driver. And the bus driver said, you can't sit there. You must go to the back of the bus. The other Marines said, if he has to go to the back of the bus, none of us are riding this bus. They are forever my heroes. Forever. I asked a sailor in a bar in Virginia, where can I find a university to attend? We were all on welfare, as I said, and I knew I wasn't going to be able to go to college. But the Marine Corps gave me the GI Bill. And so once discharged, I took the 55 bus and the subway to Temple University, knocked on the bursar's door, and I said, my name is Donald Ford, I have the GI Bill, and I want to go to college. He said, I can't help you. I said, yes, sir. A week later, I went back to Temple University, gave the exact same speech. The bursar's said, okay, I'm going to give you a test. And this was a time when very few black students were attending Temple. I took that test 2.5 hours. Came back and the academic dean came to the bursar's office and said, he passed the test. So the dean said, okay, I'm allowing you to attend Temple University, but I'm placing you on academic probation. Guess what? I'm still on academic probation. I now have 4 advanced degrees. Temple University, Penn State, and Princeton Theological. Prior to the famous Washington speech, I had the honor of introducing Dr. King to the congregation at Salem Baptist Church in Jenkintown, Pennsylvania. It was a wonderful occasion. And then after his speaking at the church, we all gathered at Stanley Gale's house in Germantown, Philadelphia. And I was so surprised that Dr. King had such a grand sense of humor. He was doing so much laughing and joking. And this was after the Detroit riots and all of those things. When it was time for the Washington speech, my friend Al Robinson and I left the house at 4 a.m. in the morning to drive to Washington, because this was a time when young men would throw rocks at blacks in their cars. And so we said, let's go down at night. And we were the first ones to appear. And we watched all the buses as they came in. As we finally got to March, I walked arm in arm with a young Jewish lad. And we glanced up at the buildings, and we saw riflemen with their helmets atop the building. And we listened to several introductions, and then finally, Dr. King approached and began his speech, which states, I am happy to join with you today in what will go down in history as the greatest demonstration for freedom in the history of our nation. 5 years ago, a great American, in whose symbolic shadow we stand today, signed the Emancipation Proclamation. This momentous decree came as a great beacon light of hope to millions of Negro slaves who have been seared in the flames of withering injustice. It came as a joyous daybreak to end the long night of their captivity. But 100 years later, the Negro still is not free. 100 years later, the life of the Negro is still sadly crippled by the manacles of segregation and the change of discrimination. 100 years later, the Negro lives on a lonely island of poverty in the midst of a vast ocean of material prosperity. 100 years later, the Negro is still languishing in the corners of American society and finds himself in exile in his own land. So we've come here today to dramatize a shameful condition. In a sense, we've come to our nation's capital to cash a check. When the architects of our republic wrote the magnificent words of the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, they were signing a promissory note to which every American was to fall heir. This note was the promise that all men, yes, black men as well as white men, would be guaranteed the unalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It is obvious today that America has defaulted on this promissory note insofar as her citizens of color are concerned. Instead of honoring this sacred obligation, America has given the Negro people a bad check, a check which has come back marked insufficient funds. But we refuse to believe that the Bank of Justice is bankrupt. We refuse to believe that there are insufficient funds in the great vaults of opportunity of this nation. And so, we have come to cash this check, a check that will give us upon demand the riches of freedom and the security of justice. We have also come to this hallowed spot to remind America of the fierce urgency of now. This is no time to engage in the luxury of cooling off or to take the tranquilizing drug of gradualism. Now is the time to make real the promises of democracy. Now is the time to rise from the dark and desolate valley of segregation into the sunlit path of racial justice. Now is the time to lift our nation from the quicksands of racial injustice to the solid rock of brotherhood. Now is the time to make justice a reality for all of God's children. It would be fatal for the nation to overlook the urgency of the moment. The sweltering of summer of the Negro's legitimate discontent will not pass until there is an invigorating autumn of freedom and equality. 1963 is not an end, but a beginning. And those who hope that the Negro needed to blow off steam and will now be content will have a rude awakening. If the nation returns to business as usual, there will be neither rest nor tranquility in America until the Negro is granted his citizenship rights. The whirlwinds of revolt will continue to shake the foundations of our nation until the bright day of justice emerges. But there is something that I must say to my people who stand on the worn threshold which leads into the palace of justice. In the process of gaining our rightful place, we must not be guilty of wrongful deeds. Let us not seek to satisfy our thirst for freedom by drinking from the cup of bitterness and hatred. We must forever conduct our struggle on the high plane of dignity and discipline. We must not allow our creative protests to degenerate into physical violence. Again and again, we must rise to the majestic heights of meeting physical force with soul force. The marvelous new militancy which has engulfed the Negro community must not lead us to a distrust of all white people, for many of our white brothers, as evidenced by their presence here today, have come to realize that their destiny is tied up with our destiny, and they have come to realize that their freedom is inextricably bound to our freedom. We cannot walk alone. And as we walk, we must make the pledge that we shall always march ahead. We cannot turn back. There are those who are asking the devotees of civil rights, when will you be satisfied? We can never be satisfied as long as the Negro is the victim of the unspeakable horrors of police brutality. We can never be satisfied as long as our bodies, heavy with the fatigue of travel, cannot gain lodging in the motels of the highways and the hotels of the cities. We cannot be satisfied as long as the Negro's basic mobility is from a smaller ghetto to a larger one. We can never be satisfied as long as our children are stripped of their selfhood and robbed of their dignity by signs stating for whites only. We cannot be satisfied as long as the Negro in Mississippi cannot vote, and the Negro in New York believes he has nothing for which to vote. No, we are not satisfied, and we will not be satisfied until justice rolls down like waters and righteousness like a mighty stream. I am not unmindful that some of you have come here out of great trials and tribulation. Some of you have come fresh from narrow jail cells. Some of you have come from areas where your quest for freedom left you battered by the storms of persecution and scattered by the winds of police brutality. You have been the veterans of creative suffering. Continue to work with the faith that unearned suffering is redempted. Go back to Mississippi. Go back to Alabama. Go back to South Carolina. Go back to Georgia. Go back to Louisiana. Go back to the slums and ghettos of our northern cities, knowing that somehow this situation can and will be changed. Let us not wallow in the valley of despair. I say to you today, my friends, so even though we face the difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. I have a dream that one day even the state of Mississippi, a state sweltering with the heat of injustice, sweltering with the heat of oppression, will be transformed into an oasis of freedom and justice. I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today. I have a dream that one day down in Alabama, with this vicious racist, with this governor having his lips dripping with the words of interposition and nullification, one day, right there in Alabama, little black boys and black girls will be able to join hands with little white boys and With this faith, we will be able to hew out of the mountain of despair a stone of hope. With this faith, we will be able to transform the jangling discords of our nation into a beautiful symphony of brotherhood. With this faith, we will be able to work together, to pray together, to struggle together, to go to jail together, to stand up for freedom together, knowing that we will be free one day. And this will be the day. This will be the day when all of God's children will be able to sing with new meaning, my country, 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty. Of thee I sing, land where my fathers died, land of the pilgrim's pride. From every mountainside, let freedom ring. And if America is to be a great nation, this must become true. So let freedom ring from the prodigious hilltops of New Hampshire. Let freedom ring from the mighty mountains of New York. Let freedom ring from the hiking Alleghenies of Pennsylvania. Let freedom ring from the snow-capped Rockies of Colorado. Let freedom ring from the curvaceous slopes of California. But not only that, let freedom ring from Stone Mountain of Georgia. Let freedom ring from Lookout Mountain of Tennessee. Let freedom ring from every hill and molehill of Mississippi, from every mountainside. Let freedom ring. And when this happens, and when we allow freedom to ring, when we let it ring from every village and every hamlet, from every state and every city, we will be able to speed up that day when all of God's children, black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics, will be able to join hands and sing in the words of the old Negro spiritual, free at last, free at last, thank God Almighty, we are free at last. Amen.
I want to go out of order on the program just briefly. I'd like to have my dear friend, Pastor Cedric Miller, who's the spiritual leader of Living Word Christian Fellowship, sum up everything for us tonight with a challenge to implement American principles. Pastor Miller.
I want to speak to you tonight, protocol having been established, from a holy Christian perspective, and ask that you make the appropriate philosophical extensions to your particular faith persuasion. I will attempt to speak from a Hebraic perspective. I cried literal tears in seminary, trying to get through first year Hebrew. They told me it was best to learn it as a child. It was too tough as an adult. And of course, I ended up with 3 years of Greek. Because of that 1 year. I have been assigned the challenge to talk about the challenge to implement American principles and values. A cursory review of the subject states that one of the main principles of America is independence. The core values that are listed by the American Sociological Society says, our core values as Americans are the following: equal opportunity, achievement and success, material comfort, activity and work, practicality and efficiency, progress, science, democracy, and enterprise. I was in the market the other day for some health insurance, and I found a Christian service that offered low-cost sharing health insurance for Christians only. As part of the application process, I had to answer 6 questions to prove or to ensure that I was a Christian. After a lengthy discourse, I failed the test because the questions that were asked were not to ensure that I was a biblical Christian, but more that I was a conservative one. I would have assumed the first question of the test of Christianity, the way I understand the scriptures, would have been, do you believe that God created all people, loves them all equally, and consider each person of immense worth to him? After all, we Christians believe that love of God and love of neighbor are the greatest commandments of Scripture. So how could there be a test for Christianity that does not include love for my fellow man? Instead, I was asked questions about a biblical view of marriage, abortion, and the like. Almost 76% of Americans consider themselves to be Christians. So it seems rational to conclude that American values should indeed be Christian or closely aligned. That obviously is not the case in many segments of America's varied brands of Christianity. I was watching one of the local news channels here in New York a few weeks ago, and there was a protest right across the Outer Bridge crossing in Staten Island about the recent controversy about the flag and the anthem. One of the protesters with a sign said something which speaks to the dichotomy or possible abject contradiction that we find in ourselves. The sign said, and she boldly read it loudly for the cameras, "We stand for the anthem and kneel for the cross, and whoever don't like that, her grammar not mine, can move to Venezuela." As a Christian of the biblical variety, this broke my heart because people who truly have bowed their lives in humble submission to the cross and all that that means would never harbor such an unchristian attitude. It is almost as if we in America have developed a Christ and a resultantly a Christianity that is devoid of any of the essentials of the Christian faith. To this humble pastor, American values and the Judeo-Christian value system should be at a minimum closely aligned. The heart of the Christian message is not who you should marry, and that is important, and I for one have some very strong views on the subject. Neither is the heart of the Christian message the state of the unborn, and who decide how that is handled. I give you my solemn pledge that I have some strong and unyielding views on that as well. However, the idea of behaving in an unchristian manner to stand up for a Christian principle might be more unchristian than the unchristian thing that we're trying to protect. Secondly, the foundation of all of Christianity has to do with what is called in theological terms incarnational solidarity. What incarnational solidarity holds is that the most God-like attribute known to humanity is that someone who is totally innocent and unaffected by a dire situation would lower himself, put himself in the same state as the disenfranchised individual, giving up his right and former estate simply so that the one so desperate and depraved could be delivered from his state. The Bible puts it this way, that he who knew no sin became sin that we would be made the righteousness of God. This is empathy on steroids. Therefore, any Christianity that lacks empathy, values independence over interdependence, exalts personal wealth over the welfare of others, finds itself incapable of giving up its rights for the cause of others, or whose hearts does not break for the plight of others, is no Christianity at all. An article appeared in Forbes magazine on July 29 titled, "Elites and Courts Push America into a Post-Christian Era." The author said, "My country, 'tis of thee, sweet land of secularity, will be our new national hymn." The author also cited the removal of religious symbols from our courthouses, the declining impact traditional Christianity has on social mores, the view that science is a challenge to Christianity, and the rise of tolerance as a main value over the belief of absolute truth. As a Christian pastor, a father and a grandfather, I find this trend to be quite troubling. However, I believe that the foundation of all of this must be love of God with all thy heart and thy neighbor just as thyself, with neighbor there being contextually defined as anyone who just happens to pass by your way. For us to have a more narrow view of neighbor, where neighbor either looks like us or is born where we are, we have completely abdicated our responsibility to our neighbor as far as the Bible is concerned. All of that is a fancy way of saying keep the main thing the main thing. If 76% of us were biblical Christians instead of liberal or conservative ones, or other disqualifying modifier we identify with, there would be no challenge to implement those values, because Christianity is not an association or an affiliation, it's an incarnation. The Bible declares that some things should never be named among us or should never exist among us that are Christians. So when we see those things happening with great rapidity, we must conclude that we have developed our own brand of Christianity, made a God in our own image, and we are prepared to damn for all eternity every and anyone who does not agree. We have created this mutually exclusive concoction where one can be a Christian and a racist. Again, the equivalency of being a fan of the New England Jets. There is no such team. Let us not make the grave mistake of trying to change habits without changing hearts. A man is what he is in his heart. Not just what he says, not even what he does. Man will be at enmity with his fellow man so long as he is at enmity with his God and Maker, which makes him at enmity with himself. If we are to change the culture, we must change the hearts of the people in the culture. There is a thing in the New Testament that speaks of a new creatureness that comes about with knowing God in the way he has revealed himself. If we're going to do anything about it, let's begin at the heart level, because that is the level that really defines who we are. In my second and last closing, if we as a nation, we as people of faith, don't start being authentic to our convictions, not the convictions we sing about or write about, but the convictions we hold dear according to the tenets of our faith, I believe that we have no chance doing this. The Bible says something which is so clear, that the greatest commandment is to love the Lord thy God with all thy heart. And the second is to love thy neighbor as thyself. They're connected. They're always connected. Love thy neighbor will not stand on its own. It is tied to love thy God. And when we have erased love thy God, we have also gotten rid of love thy neighbor. because it takes a changed heart to bring about a changed country. God bless you.
Wonderful, Pastor. I just want to make a quick note. Looking at the prayer for our country, which we say here every Saturday morning. And one of the things that we pray to every Saturday is plant love and companionship, peace and friendship among the many peoples and faiths who dwell in our nation. So we have a Jewish version and a Christian version of us who are acting out on a daily basis. I want to call now the crescendo of our program. In 14 years, we've never missed this. I want to call the Livermore Christian Fellowship Choir, the Second Baptist Church Choir. I'd like you guys to come up. I'd like to do We Shall Overcome and America the Beautiful. I want to remind all of you that on Sunday, starting at 2 o'clock, is the March from Martin Luther King Memorial Park, the Second Baptist Church. There's an amazing program there that starts at 3 o'clock. On Monday morning, the 21st, I have been honored to give the Martin Luther King address in Long Branch Memorial Park, starting at 9 o'clock. We'd love all of you to be there to honor the programs of our neighbors, our partners, and honor this great man, Dr. Martin Luther King. Living Word, Second Baptist, come on up. We can't do this ourselves. I know I can.